Welcome back to Crypto Ledger today. Brad Garlinghouse was on Fox News this morning and talking about the status of the cryptocurrency industry with Maria. And he got some very, very interesting things to say. We're going to start the podcast today with a couple of clips from what Brad and Maria were talking about.
Tell us how Ripple fits into this whole crypto framework that we're actually understanding better and better recently.
So from the earliest days, Ripple has been focused on solving the problem around cross-border payments. It's slow, it's expensive, and we use a digital asset called XRP to help speed that up, make it very inexpensive and very reliable. But the challenge, as you know well, is the U.S. has had this very hostile. The Biden administration has been waging a war on crypto, and I think an unlawful war. Courts have agreed with us on that. And we're finally seeing that kind of unlocked in a Trump-embraced crypto, and crypto embraced Trump. And I think we're seeing that reflect in kind of how the markets have reacted since the election.
So for Ripple, do you think that this also unlocks new revenue opportunities for you in the U.S.? Because I know the customer base is largely outside the U.S.
You're exactly right. You know, the United States SEC filed a lawsuit about what is XRP 4 years ago. And so it kind of froze the U.S. market opportunity for us. You know, if you're a U.S. bank or U.S. financial institution, you're like, let's just wait and see how this plays out. So sure. 95% of our customers are outside the United States. And finally, I think we're at a point where we can actually see growth and see the crypto industry thrive here in the United States. The largest economy in the world has really been leaning out of the crypto economy.
And giving it up to China.
There's no question. Like, it's growing in the UK, it's growing in Japan, it's growing in Switzerland. I mean, these are big economies that are leaning, you know, the US really has been the outlier in many ways.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Okay, let's stop right there and recap some things that Brad Garlinghouse had to say about the crypto industry. One of the first things he said I thought was very profound was that Trump embraced crypto and crypto embraced Trump. We're seeing that obviously from his cabinet picks as well. It seems like all of his cabinet picks are very pro-crypto. Also, 95% of Ripple's customers are outside the United States. What Ripple has done, and I've played this on some other podcasts, but what Ripple has done since the Biden administration was very anti-crypto, it seemed Ripple had taken their emphasis to building their infrastructure in other parts of the world. They utilized the powerful monetary authority of Singapore, which is probably one of the most pro-crypto regulatory bodies in the world. And they have launched a very pro-Asia presence and built a massive business there. What Brad has talked about in other interviews is that by building out that business, that 95% business that's everywhere but the United States, waiting for the United States to become crypto friendly, now all of those customers, when the United States becomes crypto friendly, can now begin to do business with United States cryptocurrency companies. And so it's like the gloves are off, all bets are off, and now this industry will be free to thrive. The third thing he said is that the U.S. is the largest economy in the world. And, you know, President Trump has mentioned that the United States would be the cryptocurrency leader in the capital. And so we should be being the largest economy of the world. Let's go back and listen to a couple of more clips.
Do you think you get more clarity under the Trump administration? Who's running things?
Yes, we want them to have a role. And as you know well, one of the biggest problems the crypto industry has had isn't the idea there's too much regulation. It's just the regulation's not even clear. We're trying to apply laws from literally 1946, a famous Supreme Court case called the Howey test, we're trying to apply that to a digital asset industry that's been developed in the last 10, 15, 20 years. And so it just doesn't fit. And I think as we bring this new kind of really the Trump cabinet to bear, getting those clear rules, which we've been asking for under the Biden administration for years, I think we're finally going to get that clarity, which will help the U.S. lead again. And I think, you know, Trump talks about making America great again. I think he's going to make crypto great again in the United States.
No, he certainly talks about it a lot and wants more in terms of the U.S. role in that. Trump reportedly meeting privately with the CEO of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, on Monday to discuss key appointments for the second Trump administration. So Fox Business's Edward Lawrence spoke to Coinbase chief policy officer about that meeting. Watch this.
We're gratified by the degree that the Trump team has had an open door with us and given us an opportunity to talk about our vision about crypto and to see them ultimately adopt much of that. We're very excited to do our part to fulfill the president's vision of making the U.S. a crypto and digital asset leader of the world. There's a lot of work to be done. There was a lot of damage done over the last 4 years that all of us in the industry and working with our policymakers can kind of get going on to restore the U.S.'s position as a global leader.
Okay, let's stop right there and recap a little bit from this last clip. No regulation or unclear regulation has been one of the problems in the United States. That's getting ready to get cleared up, I think, with President Trump's pro-crypto team coming on board. Also, he said, as President Trump is planning to make crypto great again, along with America, obviously. And, my question is, why is President Trump so out front about crypto? Well, I think we know the answer to that. If you've watched these podcasts, you've recognized how important that the crypto industry is to this digital transformation. You can't have the digital transformation without the cryptocurrency companies. In fact, these ISO compliant blockchains and assets that run on these blockchains are the backbone of this new system. And so they have to be able to have legal clarity. They haven't had that for the last 4 years. They've been jumping through hoops. Some of them have moved forward. Some of them have been slapped with lawsuits. Some of them have been fined by the SEC. And it's just like Brad Garlinghouse has said many times about the chairman of the SEC. He has regulated through enforcement. He's regulated through enforcement. And so this has not worked well for the American companies. The banks in the United States have withheld from publicly moving forward with the digital asset industry, although behind the scenes, they're all in. They're working feverishly. We've proved that on this podcast. And we've showed video after video and articles that have proved that the banking industry is very much on board with this digital transformation. They're just not showing it out front. And the reason for that is because there's no legal clarity. Now, obviously, that's coming. We're not worried about that. And it's probably coming very quickly. Let's go on.
It would speak volumes if Trump put in a crypto expert in the SEC. That would be unbelievable. Or CFTC. Where does Coinbase fit into all of this?
I mean, Coinbase has been a really important voice in this. I think, three key players came together during this election cycle. Coinbase, Ripple, and Andreessen Horowitz came together to really make sure that crypto was front foot on the agenda. And I think we will get someone at the SEC who is very familiar with crypto. There's a couple names still in the mix that I think are very strong candidates. And the nice thing is these are people who don't go in with we're going to attack this industry. And it really did turn out to be, at a minimum, unethical and a maximum unlawful. And again, federal courts are saying that, not just Brad Garlinghouse.
I love the way he put that last thought. He said at a minimum, it's been unethical, and a maximum, it's been unlawful. In fact, there's 18 states that have sued the SEC because of the anti-crypto stance that the SEC over the last 4 years has taken against the cryptocurrency industry. And they're going to hold Gary Gensler's, the chairman of this SEC, they're going to hold his feet to the fire, I think, after the fact. Now, we know that he has tendered his resignation. It's not officially gone, but it looks like he will be gone soon. Now, he talks about putting a crypto expert in the SEC or the CFTC. If you understand anything about the regulation of this industry, by and large, the CFTC should be and will be the governing body of the digital industry, because the assets that are being bought and sold are not securities. In fact, that's one of the positive things that came out of the lawsuit from the SEC versus Ripple, is that the judge ruled that that XRP is not a security. And that still stands today. And so what are they? Well, they're commodities. They're not securities. And so they're regulated by the CFTC, and that's very clear. And so the SEC will only have a part of regulating the cryptocurrency industry if they apply for ETFs and things like that.
Right. And Trump has talked about the stablecoin industry as well. You're about to launch a stablecoin. Is that right?
We are indeed. Ripple announced not too long ago, we're announcing something called RLUSD or Ripple USD. The stablecoin market now is about $180 billion. And the largest player is called Tether. We think there's an opportunity for the Ripple of the world, an institutional use case, selling into banks, solving that cross-border, and really making payments cheaper, faster. We think this is a perfect use case of these technologies.
I can understand, because slowly but surely you're seeing financial services get it and start implementing crypto, stable coins in their businesses. Trump, of course, has vowed to fire SEC Chairman Gary Gensler on day one. He said day one. And Gensler has recently signaled that he may soon resign after President-elect Trump's massive election win. Here's a look at some of the rumored contenders Trump is considering for the chairman of the SEC, Brad. And I want to get your take on what's the most important thing that person should do in the early days of this new role at the SEC, should one of these folks get them.
I think working with Congress and identifying here's the gaps in the existing laws that create the confusion. I think, I don't know all those candidates personally, but there's a bunch of very strong candidates up there that I think aren't going to pretend that, hey, the rules are clear. Gary Gensler would testify in front of Congress and literally say the rules are clear, but in the next sentence he wouldn't answer the question, is ETH a security? So to me, it's just this, head in the sand. It's a new dawn for crypto.
The last thing we want to pick out with what Brad had to say here is that he's hoping that President Trump will pick someone for the chairman of SEC and CFTC who will be working with Congress to try to fill the loopholes or try to fill the spaces where there's lack of clarity in the regulations. I think the way things stand right now, the cryptocurrency industry is poised to benefit massively from these changes. Okay, just on the heels of that great news with Ripple and XRP, we have today XRP news flash, exciting news from the cryptocurrency community. The Bank of Ireland, the Central Bank of Ireland, has officially approved XRP, marking a significant milestone for the digital asset. This endorsement opens up new opportunities for adoption and use of XRP within the region. So this is great news coming out of Ireland, and we're seeing that taking place all over the world, actually. We have the head of structuring at Archax, which is a Ripple partner, and he discusses two different types of stablecoins. And if you've not heard this type of an explanation before, you might want to pay attention because there are two different types of stablecoins, and he goes into some detail about how that these play a role in the future digital economy.
That we're seeing two concepts in stablecoin. One being a stablecoin that has a particular, I would say, utility, and that utility could be sitting within essentially a private network of banks or institutions or brokers, and they're using this stablecoin for essentially immediate or what they call atomic settlement. And what that allows is essentially de-risking of the settlement period. Rather than in classic times, dealing on a T2, T3 basis, you're dealing now on not even a T0 basis, but an immediate settlement.
Okay, I want to explain what he just meant by that. He's talking about a stablecoin that's in a private network, such as let's say banks could have their own stablecoin, and actually some do already. He mentioned that instead of being a T2 or a T3 settlement period, what that means is it would take 2 or 3 days for funds to clear. And he said we're essentially going to even better than T0. It's not within a day; it is instantaneous, and that's what real-time gross settlements are all about, is that when you click the enter button on your phone or on the computer, that literally the funds transfer instantaneously. And so this is where stablecoins are going to play a massive role in the future of money transfer because there is no lag time. It happens immediately.
In that case, that stablecoin exists within a very small group of what you call whitelisted wallets and individuals. Then you've got another concept, which is the much broader stablecoin, which is essentially available to the whole world. It can exist on multiple protocols. It can exist in multiple jurisdictions, subject to the regulatory journey. And generally, in these smart contracts, you would implement what they call the sanctions list, which is essentially prohibiting bad actors utilizing this particular stablecoin. But it's much more focused on addressing some bigger and smaller issues, which is essentially trade finance, dealing with retailers, clearing, and all it is essentially a new settlement layer. We use banks, we use cash, we potentially in time will use CBDCs, but stablecoins are just another route to enable the financial markets to operate in a much more effective way.
Yeah, this gentleman very, very eloquent in explaining the different use cases of stablecoins. I really like what he had to say here. He talked about stablecoins being available to the whole world now. This is where the USDC stablecoin from Circle, I think that fits in that category. The RLUSD from Ripple will also fit into that category. In other words, they'll be compliant from every jurisdiction worldwide. We know that the USDC is already MiCA compliant for the MiCA regulations in the European Union. And of course, once they roll this out in the United States, it'll be compliant here as well. And so it's actually, the RLUSD is actually being used already, but it's in beta test form and it's not for public consumption at this time. I think this will happen sometime before December is over. I think they'll get clarity from the New York financial sector and get that moving forward. This was good. This was a really good interview from the head of structuring at RJAX, and I really liked what he had to say. Big Mr. Man on X.com actually found this interview and posted it for us today. He also posted this here. I can feel it. I feel the wave of euphoria about to hit us. Crypto adoption is coming on a scale like we've never witnessed before. Tokenization of real-world assets will drive the markets with stablecoins, fueling the growth of digital commerce. And so this is definitely right in line with what we've just been talking about.
I think it's significant in many ways. I think what you actually have here is you have a market structure, a regulated market structure that is wrapped literally around cryptographic tokens, in this case, Bitcoin tokens, and the safekeeping of those, the record keeping of those, and the actual kind of underlying transfer and liquidity. And so that is a market structure that is now being interacted with by the very largest financial institutions in the world, and they're coming together and working with great firms like Coinbase and others who are providing the actual critical crypto infrastructure.
He talked about an industry that's wrapped around cryptographic tokens. Well, that's the technical term for cryptocurrency. There are cryptographic tokens that are part of cryptography, and that's what blockchains are. This isn't some sort of mythical computerized money system, money scheme that is just, going to be a flash in the pan and may last for a few years, and then they'll find a bunch of fraud and then, go back to doing things the old way. He just mentioned here that the very largest financial institutions in the world are they're fully embracing this industry. And they're not only embracing it, they're at the forefront of implementing this into their own programs. The next thing we want to bring out is an article that shows the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, the central banking institution of Hong Kong, publishes a document about a pilot program, and only one company is listed here for cryptocurrencies, and it's Ripple. Ripple is the company behind this pilot program. You can obviously see here from the different logos. We got Visa, MasterCard, and these different banks, HSBC, etc. And then there is Ripple, right at the forefront of building this infrastructure. Ripple has been on the ball worldwide, trying to put this together, and it's all coming to fruition right now. Late 2024 and 2025, we're going to see mass adoption of cryptocurrencies worldwide. Next, we have another article from Mr. Man. He's tagged a video clip here on Fox News regarding Trump building the A-team. Let's take a quick listen to this.
Yeah, so I was the first person in the country to be an advocate for Bitcoin and blockchain technology in our nation's capital.
Why were you that? What made you do that?
My conviction was really around the promise of Bitcoin to address some of our most pressing issues facing our country. I went to D.C. right after the financial crisis of 2008. I wanted to fight for something better. When I learned about Bitcoin and how this could be a technology to create financial opportunity and an equitable financial system for all people, that was something I was willing to fight for. And now this has really emerged as a tool to address our debt issue, can strengthen national security goals, can strengthen economic security goals. It's so much more than just people making money after crypto. That's not what it's about. It's about securing our financial prosperity.
You're looking at it almost from a humanitarian point of view.
We absolutely do believe that crypto.
Wow, I like what she just said here about the cryptocurrency industry. I mean, she said it's not just about making money as an investment. It's changing the way we do business. And he said you're almost looking at this as from a humanitarian point of view. And there's a lot of humanitarianism built into the cryptocurrency industry. And I'll tell you why. Because the governments cannot get their hands on this. This is open. The digital ledger technology is transparent. If you buy something or if the government purchases X amount of tokens, that is recorded on the digital ledger and it's public. It's a public blockchain.
Cryptocurrencies, they're open source software, which is protected by free speech. The free speech conversations have been front and center over the past several years, mostly with social media platforms. But we are a branch of that same tree. We believe it is a human right to have an access to cryptocurrencies. This is our freedom to transact. It's our property rights, and it's our freedom to assemble digitally with anyone in the world.
Wow, did you hear that? She said this is our freedom to assemble digitally. I love her take on this.
folks who just lost their seats. I was reading your note. Is it 250 now pro-crypto members of Congress?
Well, as of today, it's as many as 290. Our team is still going through all of those 535 members and analyzing who we consider to be pro-crypto. But it's as many as 290, and there's 535 members of Congress, which means about 55% of members of Congress that will be sworn in January are pro-crypto. And that means crypto is the majority party.
What do you want to see from them?
Well, our industry has faced significant pushback from Washington, D.C.
Right.
The biggest issues facing the cryptocurrency industry is a lack of regulatory clarity, coupled with very aggressive regulation by enforcement from the regulators, primarily the SEC, but to some extent the CFTC as well.
Right.
We need clarity on whose jurisdiction begins and where, and we need registration frameworks so companies can bring the most innovative financial products to market, registered, regulated, without the fear of enforcement.
So I've got 30 seconds, though. The main pushback has been that it's used so much in crimes, that digital crimes, and whether someone steals all the paperwork from a hospital and holds it hostage and they have to pay through crypto, that kind of stuff. Is there an elegant solution to that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a very small minority of cryptocurrency transactions are used in illicit finance.
Right.
A blockchain is a permanent ledger, so an unalterable ledger of every transaction of cryptocurrencies. You don't have this in traditional financial system. You don't have this in the banking system.
Right.
You obviously have none of this with cash. This is a much greater tool for law enforcement than criminals. And you should ask the Department of Justice. You should ask the FBI that. They understand that. The ones on the front line have this incredible tool to follow the money and apprehend.
This question is one that we do see newscasters bring up about the ability for fraud to be committed with cryptocurrencies, et cetera. How much fraud has been committed with the U.S. dollar worldwide in cash? I mean, you can't even begin to compare the fraud level and the boxcar loads of cash that have been found in drug dealers' homes or drug dealers' warehouses around the world, and also some rogue leaders that have got their hands on United States $100 bills. I mean, come on. She hit a home run with her answer, and I appreciate what she had to say about this, because she mentioned that the transactions are permanently recorded on the blockchain, and that's called immutability. They're immutable. That means they can never be altered. And so if a transaction takes place, it's there forever. And this gives law enforcement a tremendous tool, way better than trying to trace cash down from illicit transactions from criminals. Good stuff. Okay, this in from Sologenic on X.com, November 19th. The numbers don't lie. The XRP ledger is seeing accelerated activity. This month, daily active accounts jumped 244%, and new accounts peaked with a 369% increase. Source is XRP Scan, and we turned you on to xrpscan.com on a couple of podcasts ago. So the Ripple network is alive and well and very, very active and increasing business every day. Another interesting article from Vincent Van Code on X.com. This says that Ripple has 500 banks assigned a unique ID, now published on their website. These IDs mean these banks are about to start use of Ripple. Wow, it's all coming out shortly. Ripple has assigned bank IDs to over 500 banks. And so this video doesn't have any sound, but it's just showing all of the banks that there is an ID for who are doing business with Ripple. That tells me something. And if you listen to our last, I think it was 2 podcasts ago, we talked about the need for a unified ledger or a global DEX or a super DEX. XRP can very well fit that role. And of course, Ripple has done a very good job of putting together all of these customers. And so we may see this switch get flipped pretty soon. I'm hoping. Head of Global Digital Assets at BlackRock, Robert Michnik, former Ripple rep, knows everything about XRP, a bridge token working internationally. Let's see what he has to say.
Most people recognize that out of all the developments in the blockchain and digital assets ecosystem, DeFi is potentially the most transformative, right? It's also, in some ways, the furthest afield from being able to kind of have widespread adoption. But unlike in the early days, permission blockchain use case here or crypto here is that there's not one institution in finance who doesn't have some path to being disrupted by DeFi, right? So everything else has been a mix of kind of opportunities and maybe threats. DeFi forces everyone to say, what does this mean for us if this actually happens? So everybody's paying attention. You're just not at the point yet where you've got kind of banks and asset managers. Yeah. Most people recognize that out of all the developments in the blockchain and digital assets ecosystem, DeFi is potentially the most transformative.
What he's saying in this clip is that DeFi, or decentralized finance, is forcing banks to come on board because they can't be left behind. Basically what he's saying. All right, we've showed some of Andrew DeVilbius's post in the past, and this was on November 19th. It says there are multiple facets when speaking on interoperability. That's the word we use a lot around here. It can mean many different things. Data, asset, language, interoperability as well. Let's notice what this clip has to say, and she does a good job of explaining this.
Think about maybe just as I get into this discussion and take a step back, thinking about what interoperability really means. It can mean a lot of different things, right? It can mean communication between payment schemes. It can be partnership with different partners in the ecosystem, banks, tech companies, fintechs like us. It can be interoperability of different languages. So talking about ISO 20022 and how that plays a role across different schemes and creating that interoperability. For us, for example, we've just, to plug real quick for us, we just made an announcement here at Sibos that you can actually now initiate a payment to NEOM via SWIFT. So you can use the SWIFT messaging service to send a transaction to us to reach the network of 220 plus countries that we can reach today, over 80% of which you can do in real time.
Wow, that's good. You said over 80% of that which can be done in real time. So they're integrating with SWIFT. And guess who is partnered with SWIFT? Ripple. And they're at the forefront, again, of bringing interoperability and instant payments to the financial market. Andrew DeVilbius, again, brings a clip. It says, this is a must listen. The bigger picture here is a macro cluster of interconnected blockchains. That's the super DEX. That's the unified ledger we've talked about, operating together to create one efficient multilateral network. Now, I'm gonna stop because I want to share some things with you from my personal viewpoint. My personal viewpoint is that the XRP ledger very well could be poised to be the front runner that actually brings all of these different blockchains together around the world. We've shown how that it can be done. We've shown how that they have the technology to do it. Actually, I'm expecting XRP and the XRP ledger to be one of the main, if not the main digital currency that actually ties or bridges everything together, because there is a need for it. And XRP and the XRP ledger is designed to be I guess you could call a world currency. And it can, since it is so efficient at cross-border payments or moving currencies cross borders, it fits the bill for being what you would call the new world's reserve currency, like the United States dollar is today. And so could it be, and I'll just float this question, could it be that XRP is poised to become the world's new reserve currency, digitally speaking? And how will RLUSD, their stable coin, have a role in that as well? Well, it remains to be seen how that this is all being implemented. But from my research, and there's a lot of things that I just don't have time to share with you. From my research, I think that XRP and the XRP ledger is at the forefront of this. And I mean, it's exciting. It's exciting where this thing could possibly be going. All right, David Schwartz here is being interviewed, and this is a 52-second clip. And actually, he completely clarifies what I just went out and said concerning how Ripple and XRP is a phenomenal instant payment system. And he explains how that the customer never even knows that they've bought or sold cryptocurrency because they don't have to, the way this is set up. Let's take a listen.
One of the nice things about the way Ripple networks, the payment side of Ripple, that's, not the XRP ledger side, but for that payment, that Ripple net payment system, although it will use cryptocurrency to settle, the the customers who are making the payments are not exposed to the crypto in any way. Like they just make a fiat to fiat payment. And so it's nice for regulators and it's nice for the banks that, you know, sometimes we'll have regulators will say, hey, you can't, you know, Joe's paying Mary, you can't like use the cryptocurrency. Like, well, Joe never owns the cryptocurrency. Mary never receives the cryptocurrency. Then the volatility is only the institutions are exposed to the volatility. And effectively, from the point of view of the regulators, the crypto was sort of like an internal treasury management function of the payment company. And so that made regulators much more comfortable, which of course makes banks much more comfortable.
Yeah, David Schwartz has a tremendously high IQ, so you have to listen close to what he has to say, but he's very eloquent in the way he explains what's in his head and how he explains. I mean, he's one of the co-inventors of the XRP ledger, okay? So this is where this gentleman sits in this ecosystem. He knows how it's put together. And what he's telling us here is that the regulators like what they see regarding XRP and the XRP ledger because the customer is basically not exposed to the cryptocurrency with a buying and selling of it when they're doing a transaction. So a cross-border payment transaction that goes from fiat to fiat, let's say from US dollars to Mexican pesos, that's going to go through the banking system. The bank themselves are the ones that owns the XRP and they move it across chain. But the customer is just a fiat to fiat transfer. So it's very simple. I mean, the customer never even knows that they were involved in a cryptocurrency transaction, and there's no volatility to it because the bank's the one that owns it. And so it's a phenomenal system, really. The more you begin to understand how this system works, the more easy, it's easier for us to see why this works and why this is the technology of our financial future. There's just a lot happening out there. We're trying to keep you up to date as much as we can on a lot of the newest information. And I want you to enjoy your journey. And I would encourage you to go back and look at some of the former podcasts that we've done, go through the YouTube channel that we have. And also you can follow us on x.com at RealCryptLedger. There's no O, it's at RealCryptLedger. And so, of course, it's called Crypto Ledger, but the at is at RealCryptLedger. And so follow us on x.com because if you follow what we post or what we repost on x.com, you'll see where our mind is running and where our thinking is in regards to the information that we want to share. And a lot of it goes on there that we don't have time to cover on the YouTube channel. So take a look at that as well. And once again, thank you for listening today to the podcast and or watching it. I hope you've learned some things. I know I have. I'm excited about where this thing is going. And I think that we're getting ready to take off like a rocket ship with XRP and some of these other cryptocurrencies just as soon as we get some regulation in place that will benefit all of us. And so keep your eyes peeled. You don't want to be too slow about learning and applying these things because, as one lady said recently on a podcast, the train has left the station. And so we don't know how fast that train is going to move. So stay tuned and stay plugged in. I hope you will like this video and also subscribe to the channel and share this with friends and family if you think they'll enjoy this type of research. And as always, I hope you have a great day.